Hey, g'day everyone. My name's Justin Flitter. I'm the community ambassador for Playbooks, and today I'm super excited to have Matt from Fundtap here with us. How are you, Matt?
Yeah, very good, very good. Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's kick into this webinar. We're going to keep it short and punchy to give people lots of really great value. So cash flow is always a challenge, with 70% of business owners saying that they experience cash flow difficulties. Many small businesses can and really should be looking consistently how to improve their cash flow by following up with best practices, a lot which we will be sharing today. But even then, a high proportion of small businesses fail because of cash flow problems. So Matt Peacey is the founder of Fundtap, as I mentioned before, a rapidly growing fintech company offering innovative finance solutions to small businesses in both New Zealand and Australia. And this webinar is here to provide an overview of the different finance options and the pros and cons of each, which work best with your clients to meet cash flow today. So this webinar is great for accountants and advisors who are working with small and growing businesses to start overcoming some of those cash flow challenges they've got. So Matt, what type of companies, what industries, sectors are you kind of working with at the moment?
Yeah, we're sort of working with it's small businesses, and the reason for small businesses is because there's typically a lack of finance options for them, or it's too slow, it's too cumbersome, it doesn't really work for a small business and the size that they are. The ones that we're specifically working with is anyone who's doing business with other businesses, essentially, or trades, constructions, building a house for someone else. It's really anyone who is invoicing. So the one that we don't really work with is retail, because ours is all about pulling forward money from the invoices so they get paid straight away.
So what are the kind of typical cash flow solutions that small businesses might be going to market looking for at the moment?
Yeah, I think there's a lot, and I mean, again, all the advisors will know this, that there's a lot of best practices that can be done just to make sure that the cash flow is as good as it can be. Before even the better your cash flow can be, the less finance options you need, the less you need to pay for people like ourselves. And so it's just making sure you have accounting software. It's amazing there's still people, not having accounting software makes it very difficult to keep track of where everything is. Timely invoicing, making sure you get those invoices out the door when you can, as soon as you possibly can, and making sure you're meeting, especially larger debtors. They've got very set, very strict timing. So if you miss by a day, it might be 30 or 60 days later that you're getting that cash in, which could be critical for yourself. The other little tip is if you can, and some people absolutely can't, but if you can and you've got big jobs, is progress payments. A 30% deposit straight away to start the work that allows you to pull in money in order to pay suppliers, contractors, employees to actually start a job. And again, it makes that cash flow cycle easier. So there's a lot of things that you can do in order to just make that cash flow better. And there's a lot that you can't. If you're a small business, it's quite often to larger businesses, you're dictated a little bit by their terms. And unfortunately, sometimes that's the fact of life.
Are we seeing with lots of kind of tradies at the moment who are in super high demand being able to dictate a little bit more what some of those contract terms are, to be able to get progress payments through, to be able to do 50% up front and things like that?
Yes. Yeah, they are. But then on the flip side of that, so definitely, if they're not doing it already, they should be, because they can probably get that across the line where maybe they wouldn't have been able to before. And it's becoming more and more critical. So we talk to a lot of traders at the moment, and a big one is so you hear about the supply chain issues, but it's the labor supply. They cannot find contractors. So again, being able to have cash in your bank to make sure that you're paying them on time every time, or being able to offer better payment terms to your contractors, your employees, means that you're actually able to retain and hold those I guess your laborers, your builders, which is critical, because we're finding so many people, they've got all the business they could possibly want, but they can't fulfill it because they don't have the people to do it.
It's so hard out there at the moment with the skill shortage. Like many companies we're talking to are really struggling to scale and grow just because they can't find the people, or they can't hold on because someone else is offering them, extra money per hour or 50K a year, and some instances, so it is something that, yeah, managing that cash flow and having those things in place is certainly going to help you with your staff retention, right?
Yeah, it provides options. If you've got the cash on hand, it provides options in order to be able to do what you need to do to grow, but to retain those staff as well. You're more stable. You're able to offer a better option for that employer or that contractor. So yes, it's becoming more and more critical.
All right, so we mentioned one of the things we spoke about before we started recording was kind of what are some of the options that companies might go to. I guess some are quite slow, like you mentioned, going to the bank for financing and things like that at the moment can take ages, and there's quite a lot of admin work to get that across the line, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's always, first port of call should always be the bank. The bank's going to, I mean, the big pro with the bank is it's going to be the lowest cost capital that you can get. The drawbacks are, small businesses, you're going to be putting your house on the line, or you're not going to be able to get very much if you don't have property. New Zealand really does sort of operate on that in Australia as well to a slightly lesser extent. But if you go to the bank, see what you can get, it could take up to 2 weeks. We're even hearing of stories up to 4 or 6 weeks because it's just taking that long to get through the bank. They might be asking for things like cash flow forecasts and the like, which takes a while. You go back to your accountant. It's actually really good practice to have it, but it's better to do it from a day-to-day planning perspective than necessarily having to get numbers just to throw to the bank. So definitely go to the bank, but there are some limitations around that, and speed is definitely one. And when you're talking about cash flow and needing cash now to take an opportunity or make sure you're paying payroll today, not even a day late, that sometimes isn't an option.
So how does Fundtap especially help small businesses with their cash flow management?
Yeah, well, we've been doing invoice financing and factoring for a long time, but it's not built for small businesses. It just doesn't work for small businesses. There's usually really high establishment fees. It takes a while to set up. All your debtors will pay into the invoice finance trust account, not your account. So I'll just step back. Sorry. So factoring is essentially being able to pay your invoices now, today, and then take over the waiting for your customers to pay them in. So it's bringing cash into your business straight away in order to be able to fix that cash flow problem. When it comes to traditional invoice finance or factoring, it isn't built for small businesses. It's quite manual processes. There's some much better ones nowadays, which are online, but you're still having to change the bank account that your debtor pays into. You're having to always be getting advanced a certain amount of your accounts receivable, which can get quite complicated. So what we do is we avoid all that, and built specifically for small businesses. So you sign up to Fundtap, you link your Xero, your MYOB, your QuickBooks account. It pulls through all your outstanding invoices, and you just select the ones that you want paid today. And instead of having then go back to your debtor and change to the bank account that debtor pays into, we'll direct debit you when your debtor pays. So your debtor pays as they normally pay, and then we just direct debit after the debtor is paid. And so what it's essentially doing is it just sounds all very complicated, and unfortunately it takes a while to sort of talk through, but really we're just paying invoices straight away, and then you're repaying us. Everything gets washed out when your debtor pays. So it brings that forward by 30 to 60 days to have cash today.
And I think you've absolutely hit the nail on the head with which bank account does it go into can often be quite confusing and take a bit of time with that admin cycle to kind of go through. So by using the software to switch that around, it makes it a lot easier for people to start getting on board with, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely. So that's where we built it from. It had to be simple and it had to save time, and it couldn't. So we don't change any invoicing processes or payment collection processes. You do that exactly as you would now. We're just providing cash straight away. The other advantage of us is that there's nothing locking you into using us. Because it's cash flow, like cash flow goes up and down. You want to use it when you want, but then maybe next month you've got no cash flow issues, so you don't want to use it, you don't want to be paying fees. And so it was making sure there was an option that the business owner was in complete control of when they used it or not. And so they choose which invoices to submit or get paid for now, or they don't need it this month, although they'll never need us again sometimes as well. So it's that on-demand finance option when you need, not when you don't. penalised for not using us as well.
I really like that. So, on demand, as I said, when you need it, it's not something that you have to use, but it's a useful tool, service to have up your sleeve when you really need to get something paid quickly, right?
Yeah, and that's it. And so we always try, like, so we go through our marketing, and we're always like, well, we're the on-demand service, we're the sort of the fourth emergency service. We sit there, we're ready to use. Now, odds on, people will still be coming to us on a Thursday because they can't make payroll because there's this one cash flow issue. But once they've got, once they realise how easy it is, it is just being able to, just like we have clients coming back and saying, like, I can now sleep at night, or it's actually a pleasure doing business again because we've taken some of that stress. It might be a really profitable business, but it's just sometimes even just a couple of days or a couple of weeks where it's just cash flow timing, it's just payment timing or receipt timing, and we're able to take all that stress away from it as well. No, you just use this when you need and not, and again, like quite critically, not when you don't.
I love it. So always, I guess, takeaways for me from our chat is always have good, robust processes. So nothing beats understanding your books and when payments are incoming and outgoing. That's always really, really key. Yes, you can go and talk to your bank, but when you need to have that flexibility to, I guess, give you some, reduce some of that anxiety that you have when you've got a pressure to pay something in the next couple of days, using Fundtap is a really great way to unlock some cash flow, super fast, right?
Yeah, and that's the key thing is that all of our clients, they'll have their banking package, and they definitely should, and they should go to the bank, make sure they get that stable banking package. The term loans, all that sort of side of things. Where we sit is we're just able to take those little cash flow sort of critical moments away and be able to do it fast. And so it works really well in with your banking package. And it's another finance tool. We're not the be all and end all, but it's a good finance tool for people to use as they need and on demand.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, and thank you all for watching. If you are in the Playbooks library, simply search for cash flow to find Fundtap's playbooks that you can use in meetings with your clients. Thanks so much for joining me today. I've really enjoyed learning about Fundtap and just how easy it is nowadays. I remember using financing years ago in one of my other businesses and how difficult it was. So it's absolutely changing the game. So thanks very much for sharing your expertise with us.
Cheers for having us.
All right, cheers guys. Thanks heaps.
Cheers.
See you next time.